What is toxic positivity? It involves dismissing negative emotions and responding to distress with false reassurances rather than empathy. It is an obsession with positive thinking. It is a belief that people should put a positive spin on all experiences. It is a form of gaslighting. This is a huge problem in the ESO community today. Toxic positivity isn't any good for anyone. It isn't being honest, and it leads people astray. Believe me, I know, because I used to fall into this trap as a person and as a content creator. I'm a very positive thinker, or an optimist you could say. Anyone that knows me knows this and knows that I love to look at the good in every situation. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. The problem is sometimes there isn't really any good in a situation, or maybe there is and it's just very small, but we hyperbolize how much of it is actually good. When I started creating videos for ESO, I had a genuine purpose in mind of helping new players know that they can play this game, that they can have fun, and that with a little bit of time, they can enjoy ESO the way that they want to. Sometimes early on in my content creation, I feel like my lack of understanding fully of a situation may have led to some toxic positivity from myself, and I want to apologize for that. However, through learning, growing as a person, and understanding more and more of the game of ESO, I've understood how to give my honest opinion without being rude or just agreeing with everything, and I've done this in my life too. So if you've been around ESO recently, you probably understand why I'm bringing this up. ZOS recently rolled out the first patch notes for update 35 with combat changes that were just not very good at best. And I'm not here to talk about those patch notes specifically today because there's already been a ton of conversation and a ton of videos made on this. But I'm here to talk about a bigger problem and what has transpired after them, and also what I've noticed over the past year in the ESO community, because regardless if these patch notes ever hit the live server or not, this is a conversation that the ESO community needs to have. Thank you again to my patrons. I really do appreciate it. You'll have more information on that at the end of the video. And so this is a conversation that content creators need to lead with. Nephis posted a video on toxic casuals last year, and it was a very, very good video, and it shed a lot of light on his perspective of what he has experienced in ESO in his tenure as an in-game player. I recommend you guys go watch it and be very objective in it, and don't just get mad, like actually listen to what he's talking about. I'll link it below in the description, but this video really got me thinking and allowed me to really see how toxic people get when an update comes out in ESO and they just agree or don't have any objective thoughts on the update because they don't want to upset ZOS, or they want to basically dismiss anything bad about their game. This is very unhealthy for a live service game. It's very unhealthy for life in general. It is counterintuitive to Unity. Unity doesn't mean you have to agree with everything someone does. What that is people pleasing. Unity can mean that you don't agree with someone, but you can give your honest feedback to help the community or situation become more unified with different perspectives. Because if you think about it like this, if casual players say, I want the game to be easy for me, if I want, this change, I want this change, and they have no regard for how that affects other players that don't play the way they do, how is that helping the community become more unified? Just the way an in-game player could say a very opposite statement. If this game is meant to be played the way that you want, then every type of player should have something they can do. For some reason, some casual players think that it is impossible for them to be toxic because they play casually. And that makes no sense because they are just being hypocrites to people that they themselves criticize. So why do I think toxic positivity is a bad thing for the long-term health of ESO? Well, there are 3 reasons. It breeds a culture of participation trophies. And this is one of my biggest pet peeves with culture in general. And I'm sorry if I offend you with what I'm about to say, but everyone does not deserve a trophy. People that get trophies have shown that they are the best at what they do for a given moment or a given time period. End of story. Imagine if the NFL gave a Super Bowl trophy to every team at the end of the year after one team won the Super Bowl because they thought it was mean or it was unkind to not give every team the Super Bowl. It would make the NFL basically die because no one would have incentive to play for a Super Bowl anymore because it doesn't mean anything anymore, it doesn't hold value. This is similar to ESO in regards that when players have toxic positivity, it leads them to being a yes man on every single change that ZOS does because they think or want things to be easy, they don't want to work for things, and they wrap their whole being in a game, so any type of change that makes them uncomfortable means that there's a chance the status quo changes and their game isn't the same comfortable place. So what this means is they look at actual data sometimes and stare it right in the face, and they see that analytically it is obviously not a great change, but they say, "This is a great change, ZOS. Keep doing what you're doing. The toxic community will leave and create a better place for the game." When in reality, it just creates an echo chamber of false feedback. There was an interview that Josh Drive Hayes did with the dev from Path of Exile recently where I gained a lot of respect for the Path of Exile dev because he said that they designed their game to not force you to play the game, essentially. And what he was meaning by this was some players that come into Path of Exile just aren't going to enjoy it, and that's fine, because it's not a game for everyone. He said that he welcomes people to try other games and to come back in new seasons and see if Path of Exile is for them again. I respect that because they don't try to cater to every single person. I just feel like a lot of changes in the past 2 years in ESO have been to cater to as many people as they can, to get as much money as they can, and just has made ESO lose its identity in some way. Toxic positivity fuels this. It's not the only reason this happens, but it fuels it. Another reason it's bad is similar to the first reason. It nullifies real feedback. When someone craps on another player that has given real constructive feedback, it just makes it get lost in the masses because so many people are toxic to any sort of negativity. But that's the thing, feedback isn't negative. It can be negative if it's said in the wrong way, but feedback is good because it allows something to get better. If you're doing something in your life that is negatively affecting you and you have close friends or a family member giving you feedback that is saying, "Hey, I don't think this is in your best interest," that feedback isn't negative. It's a positive thing that is trying to help you be a better version of yourself. But when you're in your perspective, you think that anything that goes against what you believe or what you think is best is a negative thing. It's the same concept with this situation. The third reason this is bad is it doesn't hold ZeniMax as a company accountable. Not giving them real feedback and just encouraging everything they do is good doesn't allow them to be held accountable for their mistakes and decisions. It shows them, oh, this community is so gullible, like they will eat up anything we do because they don't know how to give real feedback. So we just do whatever we like. We can sell $100 houses on the Crown Store. We can keep loot boxes in the game that are predatory and that feed off people's spending problems. We can water down our content. We can do X, Y, or Z because it makes so much money and it doesn't negatively affect us. It doesn't breed a good relationship with the company that makes the game. I'm not saying that ZOS doesn't make good changes, that there hasn't been great updates they've done, that they are pretty, responsive, but having toxic positivity doesn't help us hold them accountable. Because if they make a bad update, we need them to know that it's a bad update and we need to tell them and we need to give them solutions. So how can we change this culture in ESO? The first thing we can do is stop calling people whiners or doom and gloom because they give feedback or because they push back on something. Just stop. Every change is not the best change and people are allowed to give feedback. So please just stop doing that. The other thing is players need to learn how to handle constructive criticism and how to give constructive criticism. So much of our world now doesn't understand how to handle feedback that is actually constructive. They get their feelings hurt, they don't know what to do with feedback because it breaks them out of potential cycles of being comfortable. And they quite frankly use that to be toxic towards other people because they don't want to change. This is sad, and honestly, I'm here to tell you it's okay to change, it's okay to grow. But in order to do that, you have to be able to handle people telling you what you don't want to hear sometimes. You have to be objective and have an open mind. Why do you think the world is so divisive now on every controversial topic? It's because no one can have a conversation anymore because one person feels that it's my way or the highway and there's no other way it can be said or talked about. You don't have to agree with someone's viewpoint, okay? But you can still have a conversation and understand where they're coming from. Everyone is different. Everyone has different walks of life. Different things cause different triggers in people's lives, and you don't have the same experience as someone else. So you've got to have an open mind on things because you have to understand that the person that you're talking with is a unique person that has a unique story, just like you do. The next part of that is people don't know how to give constructive feedback. If you're on the forums attacking the devs personally and telling them inappropriate things, then you're not helping the problem at all. This isn't how you give feedback. I understand you might be upset. You feel like maybe you've wasted your time, but directing your anger to the wrong things and acting upon it isn't appropriate. Instead, take those emotions and figure out a solution with them. Give a solution to the devs that is well thought out and constructive. When you give constructive feedback, you need to state what you have a problem with and why it's a problem, and then give a solution. This is the best way for someone to see a logical argument and potentially change their stance on something in the game. If you do that and you don't attack someone, then you have done all you can do with feedback. So don't let anyone get to you that calls you an elitist or toxic or something like that. And if the devs don't do anything about it, then you have to understand that they're not going to do anything and you have to move on. If we had more people in the casual camp doing this as well, this would be a powerful tool and a powerful effect on ESO. And another way we can change the culture, and this might sound bad, but it's honestly just to stop playing ESO for a little bit. Take a break. If you're burnt out on these kind of changes, the community, or whatever it may be, take some time away and play something else. Because in order to change the culture of toxic positivity, it may mean that if some of these toxic people don't want to change, then ESO itself needs to have some pruning done. It needs to go through a drought. It needs to financially affect the game. Because if you stop playing and the toxic positivity crowd starts seeing that there is no in-game community that's going to help them with things, that the game is dying, that the game is struggling to reach its goals, then it may be what it takes to wake some of these players up to realize that they are wrong. Speaking with your wallet is one of the best ways to get to a company's or a developer studio's attention, because money is king for the world right now. I'm not saying that that is the right thing, because it's not. Money is not the end all be all of life, but for how the world runs, a lot of times money talks. And when you start taking money away from people, you will see a lot of change, because a lot of people's motives in life are based off of money. So you start taking their money, you'll see some change real quick. So that is not meant to be a threat. That is not meant to be facetious. It's honestly just meant to encourage people to play something else, because the problem is when you don't speak with your wallet like that and you just sit on the forums and you keep giving actual good feedback, you get more upset and more upset and more upset. And you just play a game that you don't like, but you just don't want to give up because you've put so much time into it, right? And so when you do that, you just get more upset. And what that does is it causes you to possibly give toxic feedback. So just go and play another game and come back to it at another time if it changes. And if it doesn't, it doesn't, right? But I'm getting to this point where ESO is a great game that has a lot of content for new players. But for someone who has played for 6+ years, they aren't really adding anything to the game or improving upon systems that are in the game to help players that are veterans like myself. It's becoming watered down. Rewards don't mean anything anymore, and I don't have the incentive to play the game as much. So I just want to be honest with you all that I'm getting a bit tired of it. And one day you will too if nothing changes, okay? Because you'll see that it's like the same thing over and over, and there's just not a lot of innovation that you see after you put that much time into it. So again, it's not that ESO is a bad game, it's a great game. But I'm just getting to that point, and I just want to be honest with you all on that. But if we truly want to uphold the ESO fam motto, then we have to start calling this toxic positivity out and stop harboring it in our communities. Because right now, we don't have an ESO fam because a family tells each other the truth. A family doesn't shun a person that does things differently. A family accepts that person because they are family. If you're going to stand by the banner of ESO fam, then that means casuals, in-game players, content creators, devs, everyone involved. But it does not mean you have to agree with everything someone says, does, or stands for. You just need to be honest with each other and yourself. And that may sound sappy and that may sound cheesy, but that's true. If you truly believe in that motto, then you've got to uphold all of those things that come with that. And so again, you may call me cheesy for that, but that is the truth. I just want to give a huge shout out to my patrons and YouTube members. Again, you get early access to videos and much more. You can check out all my content down in the description and on our website. But I really hope this video finds people well, and I hope that it actually can cause some sort of change in the community and people will actually take this into account and improve themselves. But until next time, y'all, just remember, have faith to be great, and I'll see you on ESO.